Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday, September 25th, 2019 episode of Free Webinar Wednesdays. This is Eric Cook over at WSI Digital, and we have been absent for probably 2 or 3 weeks, and I am excited to be back for a live show. And for those of you that are joining me live, thanks for hanging in there. It's been a little bit of a crazy conference slash banking school slash travel schedule on my part, and but we're back and we're having a live show, and this is going to be awesome because I've got a bunch of stuff to chat about and some cool things to reveal that I think you might be interested in learning about, particularly as it relates to social engagement, relationship building, hashtags. We've not talked since I've actually been back from the Pacific Coast Banking School and the 4th annual PCBS hashtag battle. So I want to share a little bit with you about that. And even if you're not a banker, there's still some cool lessons and observations and insights that you can get as a result of our hashtag battle and its activity. So before we get any further down the line, just want to remind everybody today's show and all shows are recorded, made available here at freewebinarwednesdays.com. So hop out there. Obviously, we've not had a show in a while, so there's not a lot of recordings, but you can scroll back and find some other things that we've talked about in the past. So check those out. And for those of you that are joining live, again, thanks for your patience and continued interest. But if you are joining live and you've got a comment, thought, observation, question, whatever the case is, feel free to use the chat functionality and let me know. Would love to hear from you. So with that, so I want to talk about hashtags, and in particular, one of the tools that we used for that hashtag battle called Tweet Binder. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll go through some of the reports. I want to dive back in a little bit and talk again about Flipboard. It's one of the platforms that I've chatted about here before as it relates to finding great content, but there's an actual magazine option that you may not be familiar with, and I don't know as if I've talked a lot about it, and just had a conversation with someone regarding Flipboard and magazines and how you can produce content and share information and maybe use that as a personal branding slash kind of brand building initiative. And then lastly, I wanted to share with you one of the tools that I'm starting to explore to try to get my brain around being more organized and not letting things slip through the crack. And there's so many balls in the air these days. Realized something needed to shift, and you can see in the top tab there, GTD, which stands for Getting Things Done. Don't know if those of you that are attending live have experience with the GTD platform and process, but we're going to wrap up and just share some thoughts on that and kind of how that's starting to become a little bit more of a proactive component of my daily life. So let's start without further ado to jump into the hashtag battle and this platform called Tweet Binder. So just by way of providing a little bit of background in case, and I see that there's a few people that are joining live that are familiar with the hashtag battle, but there's also some that are not. So the Pacific Coast Banking School is one of the schools that I instruct at to help bankers understand how to leverage digital and social tools and technology and strategies to build relationships and kind of enhance relevance and kind of get connected with folks. Because at the end of the day, whether you're a banker or an attorney or a hairdresser, you choose to do business with those people that you know and like and trust. I oftentimes say people will choose to do business with you because they see that you're their banker, not just because you work at the bank. And that means the personal relationship is there. And so one of the things that you can do as part of that process is you can participate in social media. You can share content that's relevant to you and your brand and who you are and the things that you like. And around those activities, you can include hashtags of things that are related to you or events that you're participating in, or maybe things that your organization is doing. And there's tools that you can use like Tweetbinder and others that tap into the feed, the API, the interface that Twitter provides third-party agencies to be able to get access to the metrics and to track the activity and to see what's really going on in the world of Twitter and hashtags. Now, just because Facebook and LinkedIn and some of the other platforms, while they all support hashtags as a way to categorize or classify a conversation or content, just because they don't provide access to their feed to be able to be used and analyzed through a service like Tweetbinder, doesn't mean that the same type of effect isn't going on. We just want to make sure that we understand that Twitter is being used as a way to help us understand, and actually let me kind of bring these back to full size. Twitter is just being used as a platform that allows for us to grab that data just to see what's going on. We're almost like peeking behind the curtain of social activity, if you will. And so one of the things that I did 4 years ago when I started teaching at the PCBS is, as part of the week-long course that people could take with me, on Monday, we actually, there's an 8 a.m. and a 10 a.m. session. We have each session pick their own unique hashtag. And that hashtag is unique to them. It's not being used anywhere else out on the internet. Any activity that goes on is a direct result of something that's happened during class. And we create a little contest and we run the two classes, the 8 a.m. and the 10 a.m. session, against one another. And at the end of the day, the goal is to try to figure out who's actually generated the most interest, activity, visibility. And so it creates kind of a fun experiment throughout the week of showing not just how hashtags work, but how they can be used to identify conversations where people are retweeting and sharing and engaging and commenting, and what those relationships could potentially mean. And the thought around it is, you can do the same thing in LinkedIn, you can do the same thing to an extent in Facebook, but Twitter's giving us the data to validate that when this happens, this is what's going on behind the scenes. So we've got 2 reports, and they had a little bit more activity. These are just going back for 7 days, so they're starting to decrease in activity. We've actually produced the final PDF reports and have sent those to the folks at the PCBS to distribute to all the individuals that took my class this year so they can see who the winner is. But spoiler alert, to the 8 a.m. session ended up winning the hashtag battle. So they were using a hashtag called PCBS Family 19. The 10 a.m. session was PCBS Rockstars 19. And then what I also did is I pulled up a joint report for PCBS Family or PCBS Rockstars. So this kind of gave us an aggregate of all of the tweets that took place over that week. And so I'm going to just use this report as an example just to kind of walk through how this actually works. But the cool part about this is you're going to see whether it's a tweet activity, a hashtag that's unique to your organization. Maybe you're sponsoring a community event. Maybe you've got a special promotion going on. If you've got a particular hashtag that you're using, you can come in after the fact to a service like this, or while it's going on, and live stream the activity. And it gives you the ability to see actually who's participating and engaging. So just walking through the report, you can see the potential impacts, and all of these have got little hoverable items where you can kind of see. So the number of times somebody could have seen the hashtag versus the number of unique users, which are actual Twitter accounts. So they could have seen it up to 300,000 times, but there were almost 120,000 different Twitter accounts that could have seen it. You've got the number of contributors here, which are basically the people that participated in the hashtag, whether they created it, they retweeted it, they shared it, they commented on it, versus the contributors that are original, which are the people that actually did the tweet. So in most instances, these are going to be the individuals that took the class either in the 8 a.m. or the 10 a.m. session. In your instance, in your organization, these could be employees that are part of the event. This could be your marketing director doing it. This could be your official business channel. It could be individuals that are at the event deciding to tweet about it and using the event hashtag, don't even have any affiliation with your organization. But these are the individuals that are creating original content. They took a picture, they're bragging about something cool, or maybe there's a service related issue, or they've got a criticism or a complaint. They're the ones that are originally creating the content. These 53 individuals are responsible for creating 298 tweets that generated all of this reach and impression. So you can kind of see this, the 53 are really the seed group that started everything. And then you had, almost 30 individuals that piled on top of that maybe didn't create a tweet, but they were mentioned, they caught it in their feed, they commented or liked and engaged, and they also helped generate the impact and the reach by engaging their audience as part of that process. So as you're looking at building your social strategy and really understanding who the influencers are and where the connections might be, these are all really good metrics to know. And as you scroll down on the report, this gives us access to the activity. So you can see, Monday was crazy, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I think Monday probably already dropped off actually. But you can see the activity of what's going on and who's actually, retweeting and sharing an original. And then the cool part about this is you start getting into the particular details of the accounts that are actually interacting with that hashtag. And this is where, if you want to kind of think about the rubber meets the road, basically, as part of your social strategy, your organization has a hashtag, you're doing an event, you want to be able to tie it back to your business. These are the people that are engaged and interacting with you. So you can see that banker chemo, when you hover over, you can see it automatically highlights where those individuals show up in the areas of the reports. If this were a business or a nonprofit or any other organization, in this instance it's the Pacific Coast Banking School, you would want to know who these people are. Maybe they're clients of yours, maybe they're prospects, maybe they're influential people within the community. This might be the director of the local chamber of commerce or the business development authority, something along those lines. Are you connected with them? Does your business have ties? Next time you do an event or an activity, are they going to be there? Can you do something that will allow you to maybe tap in and build a better relationship? So you can see, banker chemo is very active and probably a good advocate and likely is one of the students, not surprisingly. So, was he a second year or a third year? And is he coming back, or did he graduate? Does he have other individuals within his sphere of influence that he might be able to recommend to come back to the banking school and maybe be a new student? You've now got access to all of this information. You can also go down and take a look at, if you want to just look at it from a popularity contest. Digital marketers, Kat actually was the sister of one of the students that happens to be a movie star, an actress out in California. So she ended up engaging and helping her brother out with a retweet that got really nice activity. So you can go through here and you can actually see, well, who are the most popular individuals that have got good following? These are also participants in your conversation, in your topic that you'd want to identify. Highest impact, so not surprisingly, I was the instructor, leading by example, so sharing information. But Jill is another banker, wasn't part of the school, but an influential CEO that was mentioned because I think she does a really good job of leading by example and being active on Twitter and engaging with her community. So she got involved, and you can see she's made some really good impact. You also have the ability to see who's actually taking some cool photos and sharing visual content. And at the bottom of this report, you'll see that the TweetBinder platform provides us with the ability to see what those actual photographs were. You can see certified users that participated. The certification program from Twitter has been temporarily suspended or put on hold, but these are people that have gone through an extra level of verification that were part of the conversation, that are kind of high-level Twitter users, who's retweeting and sharing content. So maybe they're not producing it, but they're paying attention and retweeting and sharing it to their audience. Top engagers, you can see the Pacific Coast Banking School is at the top. Top engagers by likes, so that's a good thing, and it was their school, so that shows the PCBS that they're kind of doing a good job. Mentioned users, not surprising. In addition to the hashtag, people were mentioning that they were at banking school with the PCBS. I was getting mentioned quite a bit because I was the instructor, but the school actually took place at the University of Washington. There were a handful of bankers that picked up on the fact that I've got a couple of Robert Graham shirts. So Robert Graham got drug in. Sherry was another instructor. Tweetbinder is the platform we're talking about here. So you can see who's actually being mentioned, most retweeted, most liked users. So these are all variables that as you're looking at the success of a campaign or an activity will give you some really good insight. And a lot of times when we talk to our clients, they don't realize that this data is available. Now, there's a cost associated with it. You can certainly hop over to Tweetbinder and click on plans and see what their costs are. And you're welcome to subscribe if you would like and pay for the service. There's other platforms out there. I know Tweet Reach is another platform that you can buy ad hoc reports. You can do that also with Tweetbinder. But the ability to get access to this information, I think, is one that business owners that are wanting to get more out of social media and analyze exactly what's going on are needing to have to start putting into their quiver so that they can be able to measure activity. This next section, and this is one of the reasons why we've chosen to actually start using the Tweetbinder platform for our schools when we run these types of activities, is what Tweetbinder did is they actually spent some time analyzing what would have it cost an organization to get the same amount of visibility online if they didn't have all of this organic activity with people talking about it and sharing information through the hashtag. And so they've used a variety of different components as it relates to determining this economic value. And they've actually got an article. If you go to tweetbinder.com, you can go to their blog and look up how much is my Twitter worth. And this will walk you through the actual kind of calculations that they've used as to how they're putting some sort of a dollar value to this. But of course, because this is a banking school and we had the ability to look at dollars and cents, this was an obvious connection. But rather than considering this as an absolute number, what I think is important here is looking at this as a relative number over time. So for example, let's say you do an event in the spring and then you do an event in the fall. It would be a good idea to compare those if you've got unique hashtags for each of those and see, did the spring event generate more visibility than the fall event? Maybe you've got more people in the fall event, or maybe fewer people, but you've gotten a little bit better at connecting and you've engaged the right audience to give you greater visibility with the hashtag. There's all sorts of different things that you can use from a comparison perspective to help you better understand how your impact is being measured, and the higher value, I guess, the better connected, the more visible people that you're engaging in that conversation, in that relationship process, the bigger that number is going to get as well. So you can kind of use these as numbers to be able to do kind of post-event recaps and say, how well did we do? Who did we reach? How many people were talking about us? And then take a look and say, well, if Lorena is an individual that's generated some good economic value, we probably are going to want to spend some time. Let's go out to Twitter. Let's follow her account. Let's see what she's talking about. Does she live in our market area? Is she a customer? Would she be a potential customer? And then figure out a way that you can kind of get on her radar screen beyond just the hashtag and maybe build a relationship so that she might start doing business with you, or at least be more interested in what it is that you're talking about as an organization so she can continue to help you spread the word. So we continue to scroll down. You can see there's Kat, the movie star, retweeting the PCBS family and the dollar amount and the value of that user as it was scored to the analytics. And then you can get some ideas on some of the pictures that were shared. So bankers participating in class, out and about at dinner, some of the funny animated gifts that were shared, some of the metrics that people were taking. There's a nice little sushi plate. So this just gives you the ability to take a look at all the different things that are going on. And then rolling down through use of the hashtags, PCBS, other hashtags that are related. So you can see there were 11 tweets that were sent out that also included cybersecurity. Maybe they were working and playing off of Sherry, who was the cybersecurity instructor that was there to try to get on her radar screen so that she would engage and be part of the conversation. City of Seattle, other sorts of areas. So just some really cool insights on how you can measure a conversation, the importance of a uniqueness. If you've not ever really done anything hashtag related, I'm going to just kind of walk you through how you would find a hashtag to be able to use if you wanted to develop one for an event. So let's say I'm up at the cottage this week, and let's say our business is going to sponsor the Houghton Lake 10K race, brought to you by WSI. They don't even have one. But if they did, maybe we would sponsor it. So if I wanted to create a hashtag, what I might do is come up with some way to tie in WSI, Houghton Lake, and the 10K. So what I may do is do a search first, and I know there's not going to be one. WSI, HL for Houghton Lake, 10K, and then I can do a search. And not a surprise, nobody else out there is using WSI Houghton Lake 10K. So I could go ahead in my promotional material, I could work with the local Houghton Lake Area Chamber of Commerce. I could work with businesses that are also going to be sponsors and say, hey, make sure that you put the hashtag on all of your promotional activity. And then as the event takes place, people could be tweeting and sharing pictures, whether they do it on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It doesn't really matter because all of the platforms today support hashtags. So that gives us the ability to just monitor what people are saying across all the different platforms. But in a platform like TweetBinder, we'd be able to come back after the fact and do a big analysis to see, well, who are the people that live in the Houghton Lake or had come to the Houghton Lake area in order to do the 10K that were participating. And that's just going to give us the ability to kind of, see who's there and who's engaged. So I'm going to hit the pause button and see if anybody has any questions as it relates to hashtags, TweetBinder, analytics, comments or observations. If not, we're going to continue to move along. Going once, going twice. 3 times sold. All right. I guess maybe one last thing that I'm going to do as it relates to hashtags, only because I know a lot of people that plug into Free Webinar Wednesdays are maybe more business orientated and might have a higher likelihood of being an active user on LinkedIn as opposed to Twitter. So I'm just going to pop over into LinkedIn and just give you a couple of suggestions as it relates to following and paying attention to hashtags on LinkedIn. If you've posted anything on LinkedIn in the recent past, LinkedIn is also making a proactive effort where even at the bottom of the post, it'll say, hey, include a hashtag. It knows that hashtags, so you can see, and lo and behold, there's BCBS. You can see that they're using hashtags here. If you scroll down through, a handful of others likely are including hashtags. But let's say, just to keep it within the banking world, fintech, so financial technology is something that a lot of bankers are paying attention to. So if I go in here and I just do a search for fintech and then hit my enter button, that's going to give me a search. It's going to come up and say, hey, looks like there's a hashtag out there. There's followers, and I've already clicked on follow. So this is one of the hashtags that when I'm looking for what's hot, what's cool, what are people talking about as it relates to financial technology and kind of the new digital bells and whistles, I can go into fintech. You can also go into like compliance tech and insurance tech, but I go into fintech. So if I click on that, a hashtag by its nature when you put the pound sign in front of it, turns into a clickable link, which gives you the ability to essentially run a search. It's like doing a Google search and then clicking on the search result to get to the answer. So this gives me the ability to go in and I can see based off of, now I've got, there's fintech, even though the original might not have included fintech. Mike, who's one of my connections, shared this article, talked a little bit about it. Here's an ITC 2019. This is an event that he's attending that also has created an event hashtag. So now you can kind of go through, and what is interesting about hashtags, and sometimes you have to be a little careful because if you're one like me that likes to chase rabbits and squirrels and all sorts of other shiny objects, you can get pulled away from your initial search because maybe I'll see this and I say, I wonder what's going on in cryptocurrency. Ooh, blockchain, that's kind of cool. So then I can click on cryptocurrency or crypto, and that pulls me. Now I'm not following the crypto hashtag only because it's not something that's super relevant. Fintech's more relevant than crypto, but I can go through here and I can just see, well, maybe there's some cool articles in here about crypto that maybe I'd be interested. And over on the left-hand side, the cool part about what LinkedIn is now doing for us is it's allowing us to save those hashtags that we want to save where we can quickly jump to those. So I've saved fintech. I can just click on fintech and then that brings me right back here. The other thing that this does is this gives LinkedIn a signal that I'm interested in fintech, and it changes or modifies the algorithm that LinkedIn has in place to determine what shows up in my feed, and it increases the relevancy that things that have these hashtags might very well show up. So you can see here's somebody that's a second tier connection that's talking about fintech. I'm not even connected to this individual, but because I've said I'm following fintech, LinkedIn has said, hey, I'm going to bring this to your interest and show this information to you. So it's a really good way of tapping into content that might not necessarily be top of mind, but it's really a particular category or a segment of information that you want to dive into. So so make sure you're taking a look at hashtags on LinkedIn, following them, and start using them more often in your posts, because it's really going to make a difference and kind of show you how that content is being shared across the board. Last couple of things I want to chat about, and then trying to keep my goal of keeping these right around 30 minutes. So Flipboard is a platform that I use on a pretty regular basis. It's a free app that you can use. It's a website. It's works on tablet and mobile. You sign up for an account, and then this gives you the ability to put in topics that you would like to learn more about. And this goes out to the internet and it grabs content and brings it in so that it makes it really easy for you to read articles and other sorts of things that are of interest. So it's kind of like your own personal little newspaper. But one of the things that most people don't realize is you can create little magazines that you could share proactively. Now, I will admit, these are not things that people are just going to magically stumble upon. It's not like you're blogging and Google's going to start recognizing articles. But if I wanted to kind of share the banking info or some awesome articles, or maybe I've found a bunch of really great info related to LinkedIn, what I could do is I could actually start using this URL. And if I wanted to send out maybe a weekly recap newsletter to anybody that's interested in knowing what has been on my mind or things that I'm reading, I could proactively say, and here's a couple of Flipboard magazines that you might want to check out. Here's one on LinkedIn, here's one on banking, here's one on cool stuff. And while somebody might not automatically go to Flipboard and look for me there, if I'm putting this information in front of them, they may very well say, ooh, click on it, come in, be able to check things out. And now they're going to be able to get access to a bunch of articles that I've curated for them that are going to be helpful and informational. And I'm the one that's actually put those in front of somebody. So it gives you the ability to almost kind of do blogging without necessarily doing blogging. So for example, if this is an article and what I would strongly suggest is before you start adding anything to magazines, you want to read the article first, browse it, and take a look. So this goes over to Inc. Magazine, talks a little bit about Bill Gates and some lessons that he learned, different sorts of things. So if that's an article that I think is really cool, I might go in, I can hit this little plus to flip it, and then this gives me the ability to put it in a particular area. So if I think that's just an awesome article, I can flip it in there, and then I can go ahead and I can put this, as a fellow public speaker, these are some really good ideas, and maybe I learned a thing or two. So I'm even adding some additional commentary on my part. So as people come to my Flipboard magazines and they read the articles, they're getting even a little bit more insight without me having to go through the whole process. Any of these are also items that you could go ahead and you could take the link, you could share it directly to Facebook, you could share it directly to LinkedIn, you could tweet it out, you could certainly get some social exposure that way. But all really, really good ways of helping to find content that would be relevant to your audience and sharing that information with the rest of the world. The last item I want to share with you is, if you are like me, your brain is full pretty much most of the time. And I got to the point where I was listening actually to a podcast from Tim Ferriss, who's the author of the 4-Hour Work Week and a bunch of other pretty interesting books, all about optimal performance, minimum effort, maximum results. And he had a conversation with David Allen, the creator of the GTD process, getting things done. And that got me thinking that this may be a process or a variation of it that I should really try to embrace and live my life by, because what I found, and one of the big statements, if you scroll all the way to the very bottom, the aha moment for me was David's comment, your mind is for having ideas, not holding them. And when I started to think about what that meant to me as a business owner, an entrepreneur, a digital strategist, a conference speaker, I have a lot of ideas, a lot of things pop into my head, and not all of those end up doing anything, because sometimes they pop in and they pop out. And when he talks about, the mind is designed to hang on to 4, maybe 5 things at a time, and after that it's going to get crowded and you're going to forget stuff. That's just the way that it is. It's not anything against you. It's not a knock on your intelligence. And to compound that, you also have the inability to multitask. Everybody thinks they can, but you can really only truly work on one thing at a time. So the getting things done process is really all about establishing a process where you can capture information, figure out how you're going to clarify what needs to be done. You put it someplace, you can organize it and understand, okay, this is personal, this is business, this is when I need to follow up on things. Having some specific time where you're doing a weekly or a bi-weekly reflection period. I'm using a platform called Evernote to be able to capture my information. So building something every Friday afternoon, getting into your Evernote list and saying, okay, what are the 15 ideas that you had? So you don't have to remember all 15 items. You just got to put them into a place that you trust, that you're going to know you're going to go back to. That's going to make your mind clear. It's going to reduce your stress. It's going to make sure that stuff doesn't slip through the cracks. And you'll be able to focus more on the things that really matter during the day-to-day, as opposed to being preoccupied and going, oh my God, I got so many things I need to do. How am I going to get everything done? And then the last component of that is, what's the engagement? When do you need to do it? Do you schedule it? Do you put it on a calendar? Do you defer it till later? So it's capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. And I will admit, I'm still at the very beginning. If you don't want to buy the book, or if you don't want to purchase the audiobook, they have a podcast. You can go into your favorite podcasting application and just do a search for GTD, Getting Things Done. I think there's 50 or so episodes that talk about the concept of GTD and examples and interviews with people that have used the platform to regain control of their lives and to get clarity and to, enjoy a little bit more happiness in what it is that they're doing as a professional. But this is one of the platforms that I'm excited to start exploring and just using it as a way to make sure that stuff doesn't slip through the cracks. And I'm not going to say ashamed, but I will admit it as things get busy, things slip and things fall through, and that's just kind of the nature of it. And we try really, really hard to not allow for that to happen. But sometimes when it does, you might need to take a look and say, you know what, if it's something that I need to take a step to do a better job at, this might be a platform that would be worthwhile for you to take a look at. So just want to put this on your radar screen, have you take a look at it. I'm curious if you have ever used or have gone through the GTD process. If you want to post a note into the chat, let me know. I'm curious, but I'll probably be providing updates periodically throughout future free webinar Wednesdays, just to kind of share kind of my experience and how things are going, challenges, or maybe success stories. The Evernote platform that I'm using, they've got a cool little app that you can use on your phone, and you can create a shortcut. And actually, I was on a run just a couple of days ago. While I was running, I had an idea that popped into my head, and I'm like, oh, I'll remember that when I get home. And I forced myself. I said, no, I'm going to stop. I stopped in my run. I created a voice note because I wasn't in any shape to type anything out. Evernote gives me the ability to create a quick voice note. I went back and listened to it, and I was breathing heavy, and I could barely understand it. But at least now I remember the two things. And that happened twice on my run, where I was able to capture something that I would have had to have thought about, remembered, and I can almost guarantee by the time I got back to the house, it probably would have poofed, just left my head. And I may or may not do anything with either of those items, but now I have those captured in a platform that I know is there. I don't have to worry about it. And if I ever want to come back to revisit what those were, then I can say, oh yeah, that's a good idea for a podcast, or that's a good idea for a guest on one of my future webinars. And then I can do something with it, or I can say, nah, that was a stupid idea, and I can delete it. But now I've at least got the option to do something with it and take action, or ignore it, postpone it, defer it, delegate it. Maybe it was a blog idea. Well, maybe I don't need to write the blog, but maybe somebody else on my team might want to have that as an idea, and I can work with them on creating a blog. So getting a system, putting all your stuff in, GTD is one that I'm going to explore, and I will keep you posted. That concludes the stuff that I wanted to talk about today. For those of you that are part of the PCBS 2019 family, thank you so much for being part of my class and making it an enjoyable fourth annual. Hopefully you learned some stuff out of the hashtag battle. Hopefully you had some fun, as well as all the other things that we talked about during class. But that's always a high point of my bank school teaching career / annual activities, and look forward to doing it again next year and then for several years to come. So that concludes this week's free webinar Wednesdays. Hold on, looks like I may have a question. One moment, please. More of a comment. Thank you for sharing. The GTD, look forward to hearing updates. Absolutely, my pleasure. Part of doing that is publicly acknowledging that this is something that I want to do. And by doing that, that also creates a little peer pressure that I better do it. And so there's a little bit of that going on as well. But yeah, should be an interesting journey. So anyway, that looks like the question comment box is clear. Have an awesome week. Enjoy the rest of it. I believe we will be able to be on for next week. I will be joining you likely from Madison, Wisconsin. I am going to be traveling to Madison and conducting my first ever, it's the second annual, but my first ever session for the GSB Sales and Marketing School, where we've got a week-long program where sales, marketing, retail, some senior management folks are coming on site for a whole week. And I'm teaching a digital marketing and social media, surprise, course on Thursday morning. So we'll be talking a little bit about hashtags and all sorts of other fun digital marketing things. So, but I will likely be joining you from lovely Madison, Wisconsin. So until then, make it an awesome week. Thanks for joining me live. Hope you enjoyed the recording, and we'll continue to see you here at freewebinarwednesdays.com. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.